My name is Kaelen, just another scavenger, another lost soul on the fringes of a galaxy that didn't care about people like me. The world I live on, Varus 9, is a planet plagued by corporate greed and the remnants of wars fought with forgotten technology. We scrape by day to day, living in the shadows of towering, glittering megacities, places we'll never see. The rich and powerful live above us in their citadels. We below, we live for survival. That's why I was there that night, under the heavy neon sky of the city outskirts. My latest job was simple: retrieve a piece of data from an abandoned research facility and return it. No questions, no complications. It should have been easy. I should have been done by nightfall, sipping a synth drink in my tiny hideaway. But then, I saw her. She was a blur, a shadow that moved with an urgency I hadn't seen before. Small, barely a figure in the dark alleyways, her clothes tattered, her face hidden behind a scarf. She didn't belong here. She was too out of place. I was used to seeing street urchins, rebels, and thieves, but this girl, she wasn't one of them. I watched as she quickly approached a pile of discarded tech, something I had been eyeing for days. It was a prototype generator, rare, valuable. Before I could react, she snatched it up and bolted. Instincts kicked in. I ran after her, my feet pounding against the wet concrete, trying to close the distance. My pulse raced, not just because she had taken something valuable, but because there was something in the way she moved, a sense of purpose, of desperation. This wasn't just a petty theft, it was a lifeline. I caught up to her as she ducked into an old sewer grate, disappearing, underground. Without thinking, I followed. The tunnels beneath Varus 9 were as much a part of the city as the glowing towers above. Ancient, forgotten, and overrun with rogue tech and malfunctioning drones. It wasn't a place anyone wanted to go, especially not after dark. But there, she was, disappearing down into the labyrinth of tunnels that most people only heard about in hushed rumors. The last person I had seen in these tunnels had been a corpse, left to rot in the dark. I descended carefully, trying not to make a sound. The dim light from my wristband barely cut through the blackness. I could hear her ahead of me, moving fast. The generator, my ticket to a big payday, was likely in her possession, but there was something more important now. What was she running from? And why did she steal from me? I rounded a corner and then I saw her, a flicker of movement. She was crouched beside an old power conduit, tinkering with something. The low hum of machinery filled the air. She was working fast, her hands nimble despite her exhaustion. "Stop!" I called out, stepping forward. She froze, her body tensing. Her eyes, wide and wild, darted to meet mine. I couldn't make out much of her face, just the reflection of the low light in her dark eyes. "What do you want?" she demanded, her voice sharp but full of fear. "I want my generator back," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "And I want some answers." Her lips twitched, and for a moment I thought she might laugh. But then she pushed the generator aside and stood up. "Answers? You want answers? You'll get them, but not from me." She stepped closer, then, as if deciding something. "I'm running from the corporation. They want me dead." My brow furrowed. The corporation? Every scavenger on this planet knew the price of defying them. "Why?" I asked. She exhaled sharply. "Because of what I know. Because of what I can do." I stared at her, unsure if she was bluffing, but the weight in her eyes, something real, something dangerous, told me she wasn't. "I'm Aven," she said, her voice softer now, "and I'm not your enemy, but I can't trust you either." There was a long pause, then she added, "The generator you're after? It's more than just tech. It's a key to something much bigger." A key? I wasn't prepared for this. This was beyond anything I'd signed up for. But as she turned and began walking deeper into the tunnels, I knew I had no choice but to follow. The deeper we went, the more I understood. Aven wasn't just some thief or street kid running from the corporation. She was part of something bigger, something buried beneath the surface of Varus 9. A secret society, a group of rebels working in the shadows. But even they had enemies who would stop at nothing to crush them. I watched her as we moved, her movements fluid but cautious, as though every step was calculated. It wasn't long before we reached an old, abandoned lab, its walls cracked and covered in debris. She entered a security code into a hidden panel, and the door slid open with a low hiss. Inside was a mess of old equipment, piles of discarded data drives, and strange devices I couldn't identify. But at the center of the room was a single table, and on it, an advanced AI core pulsing with a soft, eerie light. "That," Aven said, her voice low, "is what they want." I looked at the core, then back at her. "What is it?" She hesitated before replying. "It's a prototype AI, a weapon. And it's more dangerous than anything you can imagine." My mind raced. This wasn't just about survival anymore. I had no idea who was really pulling the strings, but I knew one thing for certain. Aven wasn't the only one with a target on her back. As I reached for the AI core, the silence was broken by a sound. Footsteps, heavy, coming closer. Before I could react, a burst of energy crackled through the air, hitting Aven square in the chest. I barely managed to dive out of the way as she collapsed to the floor, blood pooling around her. "You shouldn't have followed," a cold voice said, stepping from the shadows. The last thing I saw before the world went black was the smirk on the face of a figure I thought I knew, the face of betrayal. I woke up in a damp cell, the air thick with the scent of oil and decay. My head throbbed, my hands were bound, and in front of me stood someone I never expected to see again. Marnix, an old ally from my scavenger days. An ally who had vanished, after an assignment gone wrong. "You," I said, my voice hoarse. "You were behind this?" Marnix only smirked. "You didn't think it would be easy, did you?" "The AI core wasn't just a key. It's a weapon capable of controlling the entire network. I had to get it, Kaelen. It's bigger than you or me." I tried to move, but the chains were tight. "Aven?" "She's not what she seems," Marnix replied coldly. She was the corporation's pawn all along. She knew too much, and now she's gone. I could feel the weight of his words sinking in, betrayed by the one person I thought I could trust. And now I was at the mercy of the corporation, a tool for their manipulation. But there was a spark within me, a fire I hadn't felt in years. Aven had given me something before she fell. A choice, a chance to turn this all around. I looked Marnix dead in the eye. "If you think this ends with you controlling the AI, you're wrong." The room fell silent, the only sound the hum of distant machines. And in that silence, I made my decision. The cold steel of the cell was unforgiving as I sat, still bound against the damp wall. Marnix's presence loomed like a dark cloud in the room, his smug expression only fueling the fire of betrayal that burned inside me. I had trusted him, once, back when we'd been allies, scavengers who traded secrets and shared the spoils of forgotten worlds. But now, he was just another face of the system I despised. "You know," he said, his voice low and mocking, "you could have been part of something bigger, Kaelen. You could have helped me, but you chose to chase after ghosts." He stepped closer, his boots echoing in the small, dimly lit room. "The AI core is the future. You could have controlled it. Instead, you're wasting your time on some girl with a sob story." I refused to meet his eyes. The AI isn't a tool for anyone to control. It's dangerous, and you know it. His lips curled into a twisted smile. "Oh, I'm aware. That's why I'm going to make sure I'm the one who controls it. When the corporation is done with their little project, they'll leave it all to me." I knew what he was really saying. He wasn't just after the AI for its power. He was after control, complete control over the network that powered the entire planet. If he succeeded, the balance of power would shift, and people like us, people who had lived in the shadows, scavenging scraps, would be crushed underfoot. But Marnix hadn't anticipated one thing. I wasn't the same person I had been when we'd worked together, I had learned, adapted, and survived, and I wasn't going down without a fight. I tested the bonds around my wrists, too tight to break on my own, but there was something else I could do. As Marnix turned his back to me, gloating about his upcoming victory, I shifted. My mind raced. I needed an escape plan. I had seen the small panel by the door earlier when Marnix had brought me in. It was a maintenance access panel designed to control the lighting and the oxygen systems in the cell. If I could somehow access it, manipulate the power just right, it might give me the window I needed to escape. But there was one problem. I didn't have much time before Marnix would finish his monologue and turn his back for good. I glanced around the room. There was a small crack in the wall where the wire conduits were exposed. If I could get close enough, I could use the exposed wires to short-circuit the lock on the door. The only problem was the guards outside. I didn't have a choice. My wristband, if I could just get it to activate under the right frequency, might cause a distraction. The more I thought about it, the more certain I became. This was my only shot. I closed my eyes, focusing on the small metal device I wore around my wrist, the one piece of technology I hadn't let go of, even when I'd been captured. If I could hack it, I could use it to trigger the right frequency, set off a malfunction, and create the opening I needed. Marnix continued talking, his back to me. He was so focused on his own plans that he didn't even realize how quickly the clock was ticking. I had to make it happen. Now. With a quiet click, the power systems in the cell flickered. The hum of the ventilation slowed, then stopped entirely. A faint light flickered on my wristband, and the energy around me seemed to shift. I had done it. Marnix's head snapped around, his eyes narrowing. "What did you do?" he demanded, taking a step forward. But it was already too late. The maintenance panel by the door had clicked open with a mechanical hiss. I had forced the lock to disengage. Without missing a beat, I sprang to my feet, using the last of my strength to yank free from the restraints that held me. Marnix lunged at me, but I was already moving. My hand shot out to the exposed wires near the crack in the wall. A few quick adjustments with my wristband and sparks flew. The door to my cell buzzed before it slammed open with a violent jolt. I didn't hesitate. I darted into the hallway, moving quickly and quietly, hoping to remain unnoticed. The sudden loss of power had set off alarms, but it also masked my movements. The guards outside the cell were disoriented, scrambling to figure out what had gone wrong. But there was no time to waste. I had to find Aven, had to make sure the AI core didn't fall into the wrong hands. Marnix wasn't going to get away with this. He could control a lot of things. But there were some things even the corporation couldn't control. And I was one of them. As I moved through the corridors, I heard footsteps behind me. I didn't need to look to know who it was. It was Marnix, his anger fueling his every step. "You think you can stop me, Kaelen?" he shouted down the hallway. "You're nothing but a pawn, just like her." I didn't respond. Instead, I focused on the mission, finding Aven, retrieving the AI core, and making sure no one would use it to destroy everything I had left. I rounded a corner and froze. There, at the far end of the hallway, was Aven, bloodied but alive. Her eyes met mine, and for the briefest moment something passed between us, a silent understanding. She had been through hell, but so had I. And now it was time to fight back. Without a word, we moved in tandem, a perfect synchronicity built on trust and shared survival. We reached the hidden chamber where the AI core was being guarded. But Marnix was right behind us. "Not so fast," he said, stepping into the room, a weapon in his hand. His eyes glowed with madness. "You won't win. This is bigger than both of you." Aven's voice was calm, but there was steel behind it. "It's over, Marnix." I didn't wait for him to react. I tackled him to the ground, and in that moment, everything changed. The AI core, the battle, the betrayal, it all became something personal. It wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about redemption, about the choices we made and the people we became in the end. As I held Marnix down, I heard the sound of the AI core powering up in the background, its hum vibrating through the walls. I could feel the weight of the future pressing down on us. But for the first time in a long time, I knew one thing for certain. no matter what happened next, we weren't going to lose.